Good evening. Welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we uncover the untold truth of Nigeria's leader who told America no and paid with his life. Watch to the end and learn how the Nigerian leader killed 33 days after defying America. The untold story of Murtala Muhammed. The general who told America no and paid with his life. Murtala Muhammed defied the world powers. His defiance changed Nigeria forever. February 13th, 1976. A black Mercedes limousine carrying the 38-year-old Army general is stuck in traffic near the bridge on Marina Road. Inside sits a 38-year-old Army general, the most powerful man in Africa's most populous nation. He has no armed escort in front of him today. That's unusual, but he's confident, maybe too confident. 33 days earlier, this same man stood in front of the assembled heads of state of an entire continent and did something almost no African leader had dared to do before. He looked down the barrel of a letter from the President of the United States, and he refused to blink. He told the world, in front of cameras and diplomats and history itself, that Africa was no longer under the orbit of any extracontinental power. He humiliated Washington. He humiliated Henry Kissinger. And the applause that followed made him, for one shining month, the most celebrated man on the African continent. Then, on a quiet Friday morning, in traffic, gunfire ripped through his car. This is the story of General Murtala Muhammed, the man who ruled Nigeria for barely 200 days. In 1976, Murtala Muhammed changed the course of African history in 6 months and was gunned down 33 days after standing up to the most powerful country on earth. Whether that timing was coincidence, karma, or conspiracy is a question historians and Nigerians still argue about today. We're going to walk through all of it. The rise, the reforms, the speech that shook the Cold War, the bullets that ended it, and the theories that have followed his death for half a century. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why Nigerians still name airports currency and city streets after a man who was in power for less time than it takes to plan a wedding. To understand why Murtala Muhammed mattered, you have to understand the Nigeria he inherited, a nation still bleeding from the wounds of war. Nigeria in the mid-1970s was a country still stitching itself back together. Just a few years earlier, it had torn itself apart in the Biafran Civil War, a brutal 3-year conflict between 1967 and 1970 that killed an estimated 1 to 3 million people. Many from starvation and disease, after the southeastern region attempted to secede as the Republic of Biafra. The war ended in 1970, but the wounds, ethnic, political, economic, were nowhere close to healed. Ruling over this fragile, recovering nation was General Gowon, the head of state who had led Nigeria through the war and stayed in power afterward. Gowon had promised a return to civilian rule by 1976, but by the middle of the decade, that promise was looking shakier and shakier. Corruption inside the government was becoming impossible to ignore. Nigeria was flush with oil money. The 1973 oil crisis had sent prices soaring, and Nigerian crude was pouring cash into government coffers, but ordinary Nigerians weren't feeling the benefit.
Contracts were being awarded to cronies. Public officials were amassing wealth, while civil servants sat idle in bloated ministries. Lagos, the capital at the time, was a city choking on its own bureaucracy.
Ships anchored offshore for months waiting to unload cargo because the ports were so mismanaged.
In 1976, a scandal became known as the Cement Armada, when the government over-ordered cement to the point where Hundreds of ships were queued outside Lagos Harbor, some waiting almost a year to dock. Nigerians were tired of broken promises about democracy, tired of watching public money vanish,
tired of a government that felt increasingly disconnected from the people it governed.
It was into this atmosphere, on July 29, 1975, that a group of military officers moved. While Gowon was out of the country attending an Organization of African Unity Summit in Kampala, Uganda, a coup was staged back home. It was bloodless. Gowon, upon hearing the news,
Did not resist. He accepted exile, eventually settling in the Hittite kingdom to study at the University of Warwick. The man the plotters installed as the new head of state was Brigadier. Did not resist. He accepted exile, eventually settling in the Hittite kingdom to study at the University of Warwick. The man the plotters installed as the new head of state was Brigadier, soon promoted to General Murtala Muhammed.
Murtala was born on November 8, 1938, in Kano, in Nigeria's mostly Muslim north. He'd built a long military career, including combat command during the Civil War, where his reputation was, depending on who you ask, that of either a fierce, effective commander or a reckless one. Blamed by some for costly losses during the war's early campaigns, he was known as blunt, impatient, deeply religious, and famously allergic to bureaucratic delay. He didn't like committees. He didn't like waiting. When he wanted something done, he wanted it done immediately. Nigeria, in July 1975, was about to find out exactly what that temperament meant when it was attached to absolute power. Chapter 2: 200 Days of Lightning. Murtala Muhammed did not ease into the job. He detonated into it. Within weeks of taking power, his government launched what amounted to the most aggressive anti-corruption purge Nigeria had ever seen. More than 10,000 public officials, civil servants, university staff, judges, police officers, diplomats, and members of the armed forces were summarily dismissed, many accused of corruption, incompetence, or simply being dead wood. Left over from the Gowon years, critics then and now point out that the purge was chaotic and due process was often non-existent. Some innocent people almost Muhammad certainly lost their jobs and livelihoods overnight, with limited avenues for appeal. But to a public exhausted by graft, the message landed exactly as intended. This new government was not going to sit around and negotiate with corruption. It was going to bulldoze it. Murtala moved just as aggressively on the physical problems choking the country. The infamous cement ships clogging Lagos Harbor were dealt with, contracts were investigated, and the backlog was broken up. He announced that Nigeria's capital would eventually move away from the overcrowded coastal city of Lagos to a new, purpose-built location in the country's geographic center, a decision that would, years later, produce the city of Abuja, which remains Nigeria's capital today. He restructured the country's internal boundaries too, creating new states out of Nigeria's existing regions in an attempt to bring government closer to people, and more of the country's diverse ethnic groups, and reduce the old regional rivalries that had helped fuel the civil war in the first place. And crucially, this is important for what comes later. Murtala announced a firm, public timetable for returning Nigeria to civilian, democratic rule. He set October 1st night the night. This mattered enormously because previous governments, including Gowon's, had made similar promises and then quietly abandoned them. Murtala's commitment to an actual, dated transition back to civilian government gave his administration a credibility that others had squandered.
We will return power to the people. To Nigerians watching in real time, it felt like the country had been asleep at Kievi for years and had suddenly, violently woken up. Government that acted, a leader who didn't waffle. Whatever the human costs of his methods, and there were real costs, real people swept up unfairly in the purges.
Murtala Muhammed became, within months, arguably the most popular leader Nigeria had had since its independence in 1960.
But it wasn't just what he was doing at home that was about to make him a legend. It was what he was about to do on the world stage. In a fight that had nothing to do with Nigeria's own borders at all.
Chapter 3. The Fire in Angola. In 1970, in the flames of independence and civil war. To understand the speech that made Murtala Muhammed a continental hero, you need a quick primer on what was happening in Angola in late 1975. Angola had just won independence from Portugal in November 1975, after a long liberation war. But independence didn't bring peace, it brought civil war. Angola, 1975. Independence and civil war. Three rival factions were fighting for control of the newly independent country. The MPLA, the Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola, which had Soviet and Cuban backing, and two rival movements, the FNLA and UITA, which received support from the United States and from apartheid South Africa, which had sent troops across the border to fight alongside them. For the Cold War superpowers, Angola became another proxy battlefield, much like Vietnam, much like so many other conflicts of the era, where local wars became stages for the broader struggle between Washington and Moscow. For many African nations, though, the situation looked completely different. It wasn't about communism versus capitalism. It was about one simple, enormous fact. South Africa, the global symbol of apartheid, of white minority rule over a black majority, was sending its army into Angola. And it was doing so with at least the tacit blessing of the United States, which was working alongside South Africa and the FNLA UNITA factions to counter Soviet and Cuban influence.
To Murtala Muhammed and many Pan-Africanist leaders, that was the real story. Not communism, not the Cold War, and the Dortmund War. It was apartheid South Africa invading a newly free African nation, and the world's most powerful democracy looking the other way, or worse, actively cooperating because it suited Cold War strategy.
In early January 1976, with an emergency summit of the Organization of African Unity approaching in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the American ambassador to Nigeria, Donald Esom, delivered a letter to Murtala. It came from President Gerald Ford. The letter urged Nigeria to withdraw its support from the Soviet-backed MPLA and not to back the movement at the upcoming OAU summit.
Murtala was reportedly furious. Rather than respond quietly through diplomatic channels, he published the letter in Nigerian newspapers. This bold move represented a direct public rebuke of an attempt by the American president to steer Nigerian foreign policy from Washington. And rather than send a deputy to Addis Ababa to deliver Nigeria's position, as had originally been planned, Murtala decided he would go and speak himself. On January 11, 1976, in the crowded auditorium of the Organization of African Unity's Extraordinary Summit in Addis Ababa, Murtala Muhammed rose to speak. What followed became one of the most quoted, most consequential speeches in modern African diplomatic history.
It is time for us to take our destiny into our own hands.
He argued that Angola was not really the issue at hand, that Angola was simply the excuse being used by outside powers to reassert 19th century style dictatorship.
spheres of influence over the African continent. He described the conflict as a much deeper danger. Extra African powers colluding with the apartheid regime in Pretoria to frustrate the will of a people who had fought for self-determination.